Good morning, Tracy. How you doing? It is a gorgeous morning here in beautiful Minnesota. We've missed the past two sessions because of the Independence Day, the 4th of July. And
Yes.
so happy belated 4th. I haven't talked to you since.
Yes.
Good
And happy
morning.
4th of July to you. Good morning to you. It is a beautiful day in southern Oklahoma today as well. A little muggy, but we'll take it. It's not yet 112 degrees, so we're okay.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the air before the heat wave hits later this afternoon. So it's going to be a toasty one today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I was thinking, Paul, what about you and I spending just a few moments today on this episode, speaking into the American dream, as it were, the what we have the privilege to do in our country, in chase down whatever, well, what someone would say, whatever floats your boat, but whatever makes you happy, and it's one of our rights. When we made our Declaration of Independence towards Britain,
Wow.
we said that we hold certain truths to be self-evident.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought I might remind all of our listeners today about what that is. If you don't know the excerpt from the Declaration of Independence that I'd love to use as a foundation is, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator by certain unalienable rights, that among these, Paul, are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah. I'm
And I
all
thought
about the
that'd be
pursuit of
great.
happiness, baby.
What's that?
I'm all about the pursuit of happiness, baby.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what, maybe we could start here just defining what that means to us.
Ooh, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All right. So, life means to me, it means the ability to direct my own way in whichever way I want, and that the government, as this was put as a Declaration of Independence from the British,
Hmm.
I don't want to be under rule. Right. I
Yeah.
have the right to my own life. I don't want to be under rule by anyone, and I truly am that way. This is why I'm not in corporate America, and I run my own business. I really don't want to be under the rule of others. Um, Liberty, obviously, get to do what I want, when I want, how I want, as long as I don't impede on someone else's liberty, right?
Right.
So as long as what I
Right.
want to do doesn't burn down what someone else wants to do, need to figure out how to make that work. And the pursuit of happiness, that goes a long ways, but pursuit of happiness is the combination of the other two to the outcome of being happy with where I am, what I'm doing, and where I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, I love it. Love it. I do hear some people say, oh man, another day in paradise. Oh man, I hate my job. And you're not following the American way. The American way is that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is your responsibility. I mean, like, if whether you're a believer or not, we all know that we've got the endowment of these certain rights, and among those is I have a right to life, the life that I want to live. I have a right to the freedoms, the liberties that I can partake of, but then I'm pursuing my own sense of happiness. And when you think about that, like the people that are complaining about the jobs that they're doing, or the business that they're running, or the company they're working for, or maybe they are locked into a corporate America, or maybe that's what was their aim all along, that like they wanted to be in corporate America. They feel stronger or powerful or more secure. Hey, great. That's your pursuit of happiness. What you don't have, like, you don't have a right to gripe, moan, complain when you could change something about it. If you could never change anything about it, okay, maybe that sucks. That's a horrible place to be. But as Americans, we get the opportunity we can adjust our life. If we don't like where we live, we don't have to. I mean, if I were to enter into Minnesota, I don't have to. There's not like border patrol that I have to flash my, my what's that when you go out of the passport? I don't have to flash my papers, Tracy. I don't do that when I go to another. I mean, like we can travel in interstates. We can go anywhere in the continental U.S. and we're free to do. And the cool thing is, basically, the rules that we live by in this country are going to be the same no matter what state that you go into. And doing business like what we're doing, cross states, that's that's our aim. That's what makes us happy. And if it doesn't make us happy anymore, hey, dude, stop doing that. Do something else that makes you happy.
Well, it's interesting if you're going to put it that way. I just like the etymology of the phrase, right? Pursuit is an active.
Yes.
The opposite of pursuit is complacency, and to me,
Hmm.
complacency creates misery. You
Yeah.
sit and then you find people to be miserable with, and you commiserate, right?
Yeah.
In your
Uh-huh.
complacency. So that's where that bitching and complaining sits, is that you get into a group think of co-misery and complacency, which is not pursuit, which doesn't create happiness, right?
Yeah. And it
So
sounds stuck.
happiness is the pursuit of happiness. Happiness is not a destination; it's a moving target.
Hmm. Yeah. I
And if
love
you
it.
stop pursuing it, if you stop actively going for it, then it gets away from you.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm thinking about there's an element. Of course, you would be better to tell your own story than I would. But what you shared about me is when you left a certain phase of your life and entered into a new phase. Oh man, it's time to play golf, and I'm going to do this. And then like 3 months later, you're like, if I hit another golf ball, I'm gonna die because it was like I know you didn't say those things, but like that's the sense that I got when you shared your story with me about like the pursuit of happiness. Like where the target is one day I'm gonna retire, one day I'm gonna retire, and then you do retire, and even if you are financially stable, secure, and I don't have to work another day in my life, still is that making you happy? Just waking up in the morning, hitting the golf ball with the boys, and then having the rest of your day to do nothing. I mean, like, is
Well,
that
to that point, I stopped the pursuit, and I thought I had arrived, and happiness got away from me.
boom?
Right?
Love
It,
it.
it ran away.
Yeah.
I had to start pursuing it again
Yeah.
because it was different. Now I'm in a completely different industry. I'm doing something completely different than even I was doing a year ago.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of like when you're driving through mud, keep on going. If you stop, you get stuck.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
my thing. I think I've come to the conclusion that I want to keep it going. So I want a taste of everything in however I can get it. And if I hit the grave and I've tasted the whole world, then I've pursued happiness to the point of the end, right?
mm,
So I'm gonna go out broken and battered, not healthy. So
yeah. Yeah, I want to. Yeah, I mean, like this is the only life that I get, so I want to leave it all on the field.
leave it all on the field. That's like one of my favorite metaphors. Is you got
Yeah.
to leave it all out in the field. So I withdrew for a little while, 3 months, as you so put, and then I realized I hadn't left it all out in the field, so I need to get back out there.
Hmm. Yeah. So I know that there's a ton of ways that we could take this particular. I mean, on the pursuit of happiness, the American dream, the American way. The pursuit of happiness. It may be the defining phrase why somebody in another country, oh man, I'd love to move to America, or I'd love to live in America, or I love America. Not everybody does, but I mean, but many people that I speak to, they love America. And in fact, Paul, I've got one client from Paraguay. And the first time that I ever met him, I said, good morning, Leonard. Yeah, good morning. And I said, so you're coming from Paraguay? Yes, sir. Indeed. Paraguay, the second greatest country in the world. And I was like, really? Oh, what's the first? America. And I just thought, I mean, like, and I don't know exactly if it's and he doesn't get to make many trips to America, but the trips that he's made, he's brought some of that pursuit of happiness back to his people. And one thing that he does is he provides products where other people are exporting. They're taking their best bits in from what they grew in Paraguay, or what their product is, and they're using their best bits and shipping them abroad, and then giving kind of the leftovers to their own countrymen. What he's doing is he's flipping it around because he tasted a little bit of America and he says, I want to give the best to my countrymen. And then if I have whatever I have left over, I'll ship that abroad. So he flipped it around. And I think in what he was sharing with me was because of what he saw in America or what he believed he saw in America.
All right.
So which way do we
So,
do with this?
well, I was just going to ask you, how do we bring this to a business perspective? So we're talking about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How does that resonate with you in driving your business forward? What does that do for you and your vision, mission, and values?
Yeah. One thing it does for me is, and you capitalize on this so well. I don't want to rehash it, but the pursuit, it means that I have a right to unstuck myself. Like I don't have to stay where I'm at. I don't have to stay what I'm doing. I can pursue something else if that's the leading, if it leads to happiness. But what about the implications of the pursuit of happiness? One could be you have a freedom to innovate. You have a freedom to create. You have freedom in business. You have the freedom to bring something to bear on the marketplace. Now, you don't have the freedom to force it down people's throat. If the market doesn't want it, the market doesn't want it. But you do have the freedom to take that chance to make something better. So maybe there's other implications that are found in the pursuit of happiness that we might be able to uncover that relates to the business world.
Well, I think and you've heard me speak about this before, and this just happened just prior to the 4th of July. And since we're talking about kind of freedom and liberty and the ability to understand the environment that we're operating our business in, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've heard me talk about the Chevron doctrine that was in the Supreme Court, and I had predicted that that was going to get turned over. Well, the week of July 4th, that got turned over.
Mm.
So now, what does that mean from a business standpoint? It means a reduction in the rules that these government entities write. Right.
Mm.
That now the Congress has to do its job and pass law for you to get fines for certain things or for certain rules to get written by the Department of Labor, Department of Energy. And it's starting to get us back to a place where we kind of know where we're operating. We're
Mm.
playing from a level playing field, that government's not going to come in and write a rule and upset our business because we can't operate under the guises of that rule, because government generally doesn't understand business.
Yep.
And then they write a rule and they make it nearly impossible or costly to do business in that particular area. So it reduces our liberty, our pursuit of happiness, when government can do those things. So
Mhm.
I think that that we're going to be under a new business climate
Mm.
coming soon in the next 2 years, regardless of who takes the White House, because the teeth have been pulled out of the executive branch and put back into the legislative branch where the teeth need to be.
Mhm.
So, so from that standpoint, you know, a lot of people who own small business don't pay attention to what's going on in Washington.
Yeah.
And I think to keep your liberty and your ability to pursue and your ability to do business without unintended consequences, you need to keep an eye on Washington. You need to
Mhm.
keep an eye on what's going. Get involved in the National Small Business Association, and that way you can keep an eye on the things that are going to be important to the way your business operates today.
Yeah. 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 So I was thinking, Paul, like as you were sharing that, like basically the changes for better or for worse that go through. I mean, like, so in our, 200 plus years of being a country, that this life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If we were to relate that to a business, this is at our core. This is, we talked a little bit about core values in other episodes, but we've got our core values. The core values should never change, even though over time we evolve. We evolve to something else, but government writing regulation, government writing policy. Fine. Okay, that's great. Government can write policy and regulations, but what happens when they contradict life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? What happens when the regulations for business? Hey, great! I'm an entrepreneur. I love innovation. I love creativity. I can bring my products to market, and I'm going to be as good as I want to be, as I'll innovate and so forth. But then you write this policy that contradicts the value.
Well,
Then it's
so and that's exactly what I was talking about. That's over. Okay, that's over. Government's not going to say. The whole idea was that government was writing rules in the absence of law or in the gray area of law.
Mhm.
Okay, now there has to be law to support it from a federal level.
Mm,
Okay, so that was the issue. To your exact point, um, the basis of the lawsuit was that that fishermen were getting inspected by, I can't remember if it was the Department of Natural Resources or Fisheries or whoever, and not only were they getting inspected, but they had to pay to be inspected. So they
nice.
had so it was costing them, every time they were going out, $700 for an official to come on board and give them a fine. So it was
Mm,
$700 plus fine for breaking whatever rule. If there was a rule that they were outside of, then they were getting nailed. And they finally sued back, which overturned this Chevron doctrine because this rule was there, and the cost going to the fishermen was there in absence of any law to
mm,
support it. It was a rule written by a government entity in absence of the law or in the gray area of a law.
mhm.
They can't do that anymore. Okay, that's been overturned in the Supreme Court, and it literally stops the ability for government to write rules in the absence of law. So, in
Mhm.
other words, if they want a rule, then they have to pass a law,
Mhm.
which now it becomes a law of the people because we're represented in
Right.
that
Right.
by our elected officials, as opposed to some government administrator going, hmm, I think you need to pay our people, our department, $700 a pop for us to inspect your boat.
Mhm.
I think that's a good rule. I think I'll put that in place.
Mhm.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it's got to be voted on by the House, the Senate, and signed into law by the president. And then you'll have to pay your $700. But it's a lot more difficult to get that through and get it done because it's got to be a law. It has to be agreed on and represented by the people.
Yeah. I was thinking, my mind when you were sharing that, I was just thinking like, where have I seen that in my life, like on a more granular level, is the e-check. Years ago, when you were forced to go get I mean, like your car had to be, had this checkup, and maybe some states still reserve the right to do that. We don't do that in Oklahoma as far as the emissions check. That was a regulation that we had to make sure that, like, wow, this is a brand new car and I still got to do this and I got to pay for the privilege. And that payment is just not like one little fee. It's like this, it can vary. And so I was just thinking, like, what about businesses that are operating in that way, like pre the Chevron ruling, pre Chevron ruling, where there's, like you said, the teeth in it. Some business operating like that, and some businesses really innovative, really free. They're operating under the values of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness within that organizational structure. What are some of the negative outcomes of a business that's not operating under towards their employees with under this pursuit of happiness, or with life and liberty as their values? What happens to them? They're like mini country. They're a mini country, or as it were, a mini this organization within this country, but they're operating by a different rule than the organization across the street. What happens to those organizations?
Well, I mean, either they get away with it or they fall under the guises of the rules that are in place. I mean, if you operate outside the framework then you open yourself up to the risk of being put out of business, honestly.
Mhm.
The fines that come with operating outside those rules are astronomical and will put you out of business.
Mhm.
Um, so it's you can't operate outside the framework. That's not a matter of like all have to live under the auspices of the officials that we've elected in the government. The problem was it wasn't the officials that we elected in the government. It was making these rules in the absence of actual legal basis. So, and it was okay for a while. The Chevron doctrine in 1985 made that okay. It made it okay and gave all the power to the hierarchy in the government, or no legislative process. It was the administrative process, and it became a function of the executive branch as opposed to Congress. And that's we have three
Mhm.
branches for a reason. And
Yeah, right.
so this puts it back into the right branch, right? That
Checks and
it's
checks and
it needs to be in the right branch, so that if we're going to operate under a framework, it's a framework of the people. It's not a
Mhm.
framework of the administrative arm of the government, right?
Mhm.
This is
Yeah.
where we cross the boundaries of our free country into a socialist framework, where
Mhm.
government makes rules and people abide by the rules or they're punished, right?
Mhm.
Now it's laws that are put, ultimately we elect all these officials in because we want to cater to the majority of voters, right? Not the minority,
Mhm.
right? We don't want a law that only helps a few of the people. We
Right.
want a law that helps most of the people. And the
Mhm.
geist of these laws should be to help people,
Right.
protect them. EPA is there, in concept to protect people from stuff that companies would do without regulation, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there's a natural human component to go, hey, money, we're going to make money if we skip this. If we skip this, we're going to make more money. We're going to make more money. And we don't think about the unintended consequences. The EPA is there in place to provide intended consequences to going outside of the health and safety of the population.
Mhm.
However, under that current law, they write rules just to write rules. An administrator gets in place and they write a rule. There's no law to back it, and then all of a sudden you're paying fines for something you shouldn't be paying fines for.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, so I mean, there is a necessity to it. It is about walking that line between protecting the people and over regulating and killing the economy,
Yeah.
right? There's a fine line there.
Yeah.
And this is bringing it back to the line. It was way over the line
Mhm.
for a while. And I challenge everybody who ever watches this to go understand what's going on here, so and see how it impacts your business, because it
Yeah.
does impact your business. I mean, there's rules coming down about independent contractors that have no law basis to it. I'm hoping that put that to bed, because there's a lawsuit right now that independent contractors, based on the way the administrative wrote that law, pretty much everybody is a W-2 employee under this new law, that or
Mm.
this new rule, right? And that would impact you and it impact me.
Sure.
I work
Yeah.
for a lot of different companies and do a lot. I'm an independent contractor. I'm completely independent. They don't tell me
Right.
where to be, when to be. They don't provide me an office. I provide my own thing. However, under this new rule, half of them would be my employer. That gives them power I don't want them to have, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And it takes away my liberty,
Yeah.
right? Because now
So
I've
so it's
they've got to provide me health care and all that stuff. I have that stuff covered. I don't need
yeah.
that company to do that. I'm providing them a service. They're paying me for it. I pay my taxes,
Yeah.
and that should be it. Okay. I do not want to be identified as their employee. That's a whole mentality I don't want them have. I want to be able to fire them. right?
Mm,
If they're, if we don't align or whatever, I need to be able to manage my own liberty
mhm,
and be able to do that. And some of these laws really are not laws, rules are really crimping down on my ability to operate.
mhm.
Okay, no likey likey. Okay,
Yes, right.
I don't want the government not. I pay my taxes, I do my thing, and leave me alone. I don't want to be involved. But at the end of the day, this new law is going to, or this decision by the Supreme Court is going to alleviate the ability of these bureaus to write rules in the absence of law, which is, I want to be able to write my congressman and say, hey, we need a law like this, or there's an environmental impact that's going on. And we get it to a congressman, they discuss it, they go,
Mhm,
yeah, this is bad. Let's make a law. We need to put some stuff here. And then they go vote on it, and the people are represented. And then it's for the best of the people, hopefully. And it's been validated in the process of law as opposed to the process of administrative rules.
mhm. Yeah, and I'm putting the administrative rules in the form of a policy, and policies should be overturned, especially when they contradict the values. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish liberty. I'm like, so like, here's our Constitution, and it says we're in order to perform to form a more perfect union, it's got to be we, the people. That's how it starts out with. But when it's like when we're not benefiting the people anymore, somebody's benefiting. I mean, the regulation is put into is put into place, not law, but the rule, the administrative rule is put in place, and to benefit who? Maybe not we the people. It benefits somebody in some type of higher climate or whatever. I don't know if that's a corporate structure or not. So I'm thinking like for the for as we're kind of serving our audience here for this one, the pursuit of happiness. What happens, or what could a person do when they are? I'm pursuing happiness. I've got this kind of thing where, like you and I, independent contractors, we ride along. We have the ability. They have the ability. They retain the ability, the freedom, the liberty to fire us if we're no longer serving them. We also have the liberty to fire them if they're no longer serving us. And this is benefiting both of us. What happens when it's structured to where I'm pursuing what I always wanted to do? But because of all the stinking rules that have been imposed upon me, this is no longer fun anymore because you've changed the dynamics.
Right. So again, that's why that's right to why it was overturned. If you're doing something, if you're in a business or something that um, what you want to do is get with like people, right? If
Mhm.
you're suffering from that struggle, there's other people suffering from that struggle. You need to come together so that you can make a plea uh, to the government to change that.
Mhm.
Now, how we do that in today's world is we have all kinds of associations, right? I'll bring the National Small Business Association up again because we are really talking about small business. And if
Right.
you want to be with a group of people who are truly struggling with the same issue, it is not a person that changes things; it's people, right? So you have to get together with other people. Then you go to the NSBA, you join them, and you get on the docket to speak your piece.
Mhm.
Now, I myself, I'm on the leadership committee for the NSBA, so which is why I talk about it.
Mhm.
I'll be in Washington D.C. in September, meeting with Congress people to talk about some of these issues. But the biggest issues that they're fighting right now, and they have a lawsuit um, against the Department of Labor with this subcontractor rule.
Mhm.
Okay. And honestly, I don't know where it stands right now because of this Chevron overturnment, which may have nullified it in the first place. So I have to go check on that. But ultimately, you get with a group of people that has a standing in DC. If this is a federal issue that that you have, or you have a state issue, you get with the local group of people who are struggling from the same thing, and you get together and you make your voice heard. That's
Mhm.
what this country is about. You've got to make your voice heard.
Hmm.
So you don't go breaking law or breaking rules to get this done.
Yeah.
Okay, you just you're the unintended consequences of that. The risk is too high. Get with other people. There are other people who are struggling with what you're struggling with, whether it's contract law, labor, it's rules, that city rules, state rules, whatever. You have to get together with other business people who are struggling with it, and you have to lobby the legislative person that's going to best fit for you to help lobby it through.
Hmm.
Okay, that's why you elect these representatives, and to get your voice heard, you need to get in front of them.
Yeah.
I've been a part of hundreds of letter chains over the last year to congressmen to help push through the arguments against some of these rules.
Hmm.
There are other associations that are battling from them from a different perspective, and they're all fighting in DC to get some of these rules pulled away. And a
Hmm.
lot of the rules are, quote, put there to protect the people
Hmm.
when the unintended consequences is that they actually damage them.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
so I'm thinking, Paul, like and by the way, I appreciate you. You know a lot more on this subject than what I do, which is it indicates that I need to grow in my knowledge on this topic, especially like these things that are happening at real time. And I think it's likely because other business owners share where I'm at. Like, government, just leave me alone. Let me do my thing. Let me pursue my happiness. And that's more of a passive approach to like what we're talking about, to the protection of the pursuit of happiness, our life and liberty, where you're mentioning an active approach would be, hey, we the people have to take ownership for this country, and like if you want to affect the change and not let it get carried away, we're gonna have to collaborate, we're gonna have to work together, we're gonna have to write the congressman, or we're gonna have to, like, it's people pushing, saying this is not life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness as we see it as a nation. And that's the more active approach. If everybody, and so I'm moving to this question, if everybody would take that, like, I wish the government just leave me alone, and it's such a passive approach. If that's all we say, what are the consequences of taking only the passive approach and just hope that they play by the rules, or hope that they play by the values?
well, they'll always play by the rules because they make them. So the fact the fact so but what's that quote? The tree of liberty will have to be fertilized by the blood of patriots.
Hmm.
Okay, that's something to that effect. Please
Yeah.
don't hit it. But the point is that you have to fight. You can't sit back and take it. That goes back to you know oh it just goes back to nothing will happen unless someone stands up to do that. And if we all stand up together, then we have a voice.
Yeah.
One person does not have a voice in this world.
Right.
Even if at the highest levels, nothing gets done without a group of people.
Hmm. Yeah.
So the fact of the matter is there's a group of people that write these rules and make these laws, and we put them into office, and we need to execute our vote to either keep them in office or put them out of office, whoever they are. And that is one of the ways that we ensure that our voice gets heard. And then those people that we put in office need to hear our voice in mass to understand how they should be representing us.
Hmm.
So I think that's the biggest problem is once we put them in office, they think that they know how they should represent us because they're not hearing our voices.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, because they're, whatever their platform that got them elected was like, these are the things I'm going to do, and that's all I'm accountable for. I mean, but there's other things that, like, are a given. So this is probably the first episode that we've ever gotten even close to. I mean, we're in election year. I mean, so the first debate that I got to witness, the questions that were being asked, I don't know, maybe there were some people in the world that were really interested in those things, but I was not interested in those things. Like, one of the questions had to do with, like, childcare. Like, I mean, like, well, like as far as like a political, like this is the platform we're going to go with. I mean, like everything that's going on in the world, and like we're going to talk about a mom and a dad, putting their kids in daycare and like alleviating the burden of the cost. Or I'm not, I didn't understand the whole question, and they just and both men skirted right over that issue as if like that was irrelevant. It was noise. Maybe they wanted to talk about their golf handicap, which is I thought was silly. But anyway, moving. I mean, but like just to your point of, hey, I got elected, and my belief is you elected me to do these things that are on my personal agenda, and my personal agenda is not representing you. My personal agenda was this, this, and this that I told you before when I got elected, and it was assumed that I voted for you because you were the lesser of two evils.
Well, and generally that's the case, but ultimately, I would say it is the constituency who is undereducated at this point
Yep.
and
Yep.
has become monocular to the issue.
Mm.
Right? They vote. There are too many single issue voters, and they don't have the ability to look at the whole as opposed to the part. So they're
Yeah.
missing the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
And in every forest, there's tall trees, there's dead trees, there's short trees, there's blown over trees. But
Hmm.
which forest looks better,
Yeah.
right? And that's you got to get up high enough to see which forest is better, because there are issues. I think I'm a I'd identify myself as an independent,
Hmm.
right? If we were going to go political on this, and there are issues on both sides that I think both sides suck at,
Yeah.
um, and there are issues on both sides where one side's better than the other, and you have to look at all of the issues out there and who back to the majority versus the minority. I want the majority of the issues on one side or the other that are going to get taken care of or looked at. And I have my own hierarchy of issues and what's more important to me, just like every other human being in the United States has. And they need to vote on the mass, not on a single issue.
Yeah.
And if we all did that, we'd put smarter people in office,
Hmm.
actually.
So true. So true. Where I mean, like some of the issues that were presented, um, it may be an issue, but I'm not taking issue with that. I mean, because there's greater things that I mean, there's a there's a reason for this issue that even exists. And if we took care of the ground zero, this would no longer be an issue. Just like you said about the small business, that when you're going in September, this overturned this Chevron deal may have nullified other things. So we got down to ground zero, we got that course corrected, and that helped alleviate so many other things that were connected to it. That as a result of this rule, these things could take place. But when you overturn that and now you impose this law, now these things are off the table and dead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for our viewers today, Paul and I obviously understand we went a little bit deep, and Paul, obviously more educated in this than me. I think the highest value that I got from this one was the constituency is uneducated. It is absolutely true, so true. We're not, and it's maybe because to the point of our program today, our title, we're pursuing happiness and we're laser focused on this because we want to generate this life and this liberty and so forth, and at the cost of not bringing our head up from the plow and saying, oh wait, if we continued this path, this is no longer going to be happy for us because there's going to be so many rules that are enforced on these things that I can't even pursue this to a happy end, in the next couple of years or whatever. So keeping yourself educated on these issues or the things that are actually going on in our country is absolutely critical.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is not the fact that they're uneducated. It's the fact that they can go get educated. All
Mm-hmm.
right, and be careful about getting your data from the sound bites of news organizations, and I mean all news
Social media, yeah.
organizations.
Yep.
And if you're interested in an issue, go read it. Go find out for yourself. If
Mhm.
there's a law that you're particularly, or there's something in Congress that you're particularly upset about, don't listen to what the media has to say. Don't listen to the tilts one way or the other. Go read it and
Mhm.
go understand it. Become educated so that you can take a stand based on your own opinion and not based on someone else's.
Mhm.
So you'd be amazed at how tilted the information you get from social media, from professional media,
Right.
depending on the tilts that they have, and go find out for yourself.
Yeah.
Make a stand and make a difference,
Mhm.
because your voice will really be heard if
Yeah.
you understand what's at stake.
Mhm.
So
And
anyway,
that
cheers.
that passivity will lead to your life, liberty, and your pursuit of happiness as you know it being removed, taken away, diminished.
Yeah.
And I don't want that in my country. I don't want that in my life. I I love the right that I have to pursue life and enjoy it as I wish. But there's going to be always these, I don't know, enemies is maybe a little bit more dramatic of a term, but these things, these barriers to the life, the liberty, the pursuit of happiness that I would enjoy. And to your point, finding out how can I participate? How can I play a role in seeing to it that these are not taken away?
Yeah. And go vote.
Yeah,
Well, execute
absolutely.
one weapon that you have
Yes.
in this country is your vote, and go do it.
Yeah.
However you feel,
Hmm.
go vote. Educate yourself truly, and then go vote
Yeah.
and
And
get these.
I might add this. This is just my personal belief on this. If you're not voting, you don't have a pony in the race. You don't have, we don't want to hear you. We don't, or I don't want to hear you because you're not even voting. I mean, like you're not actively participating in affecting change. So all you're doing is just griping. Like if you're voting, then you're saying, hey, I'm standing with this particular candidate because these are the changes I'd like to see, or these are the things I'd like to be instilled. If you're not voting, then you're not. I mean, that's a great, I mean, pursuit of happiness. It's a great right that we all have based on where you're coming from and what your beliefs are, whether you're conservative or you're left wing, right wing. I mean, if you're not voting, well, then you're not you're not voicing your opinion. And then outside of the rest of it, like when it's all said and done, and everything, did you vote? No. Well, then why you don't have you shouldn't even be at the table of this conversation because you're not affecting that right that we all have as Americans.
Well, you're not taking control of the outcomes. I'll go back to outcomes. You are accepting whatever happens, and then you're going to gripe about it. If
Yeah.
you at least give yourself a reason to gripe,
Mhm. Yes.
right?
Yes. I want to
At least
earn the
take an
right to,
active. I
I
want to earn
voted,
the
so
right
I
to
can
gripe.
gripe on this matter.
I voted. My guy lost. Now I can gripe. I have the
Yeah.
right to gripe.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
at least I
So,
didn't vote for him, but I voted.
but I
Yeah.
voted. So
Uh-huh.
that's it.
Excellent.
All right. Good close.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Paul. I look forward to getting to spend some time with you next week right here at Pivot Point Live.
All right. Sounds good. A week from today.
Yes, sir.
Adios.